In the neon haze of a broken dawn, steel towers hum, but the wild runs on. A shadow moves through the circus below, half machine, half beast, with a violet glow. They thought the outback was lost to the flame, but a jingle. In the neon haze of a broken dawn, steel towers hum, but the wild runs on. A shadow moves through the circus below, half machine, half beast, with a violet glow. They thought the outback was lost to the flame, but a dingo returned with a coat in his veins. Save up on dingo, racing through the night, claws on chrome, eyes burning bright, guarding of futures the core can't control, running on data but driven by soul.
What is going on, everyone? Looks like there was a bit of a technical error there. It just wouldn't transition to myself after the song ended. But that's all right. Welcome, everyone. It's fantastic to have everyone here this morning. For those of you joining me from the USA, it might be nighttime and parts of Europe, really late at night as well. But if you are tuning in from those areas, welcome. To answer a quick question that I saw here as to who made this, the song, I did, actually. Obviously, I didn't sing it. That was entirely generated, but the lyrics in that, it actually took a long time to get it all right. And the animations as well. That took me a very long time to just put together. But the full song, I don't really have an animation at the moment to put out because it just takes so long, and I feel like there needs to be a bit of an artistic direction there and a bit of a storyboard. But maybe today I actually have the song up here. Maybe today I can show you the whole song. Because I don't think I've ever shown anybody apart from my patrons and YouTube members the whole song before. But having said that, once again, before I start off every single time, I'd like to give a massive shout out to all my patrons and YouTube members. Without your support, this channel would not exist. So thank you once again for your support and tuning in every single time. And if you'd like to join them as well, get access to a ton of perks, you can do so just by going to Patreon and looking for me there. My links are always in the description. Funny comment there. Right-wing version of Apostate Aladdin. You could say that, I guess. I can't really say I do watch a lot of Apostate Aladdin, but yeah, I do know who that is. But I think out of the more apostate YouTubers, ex-Muslims, I tend to mostly watch Apostate Prophet and Harris Sultan, whom I've collaborated with quite often here, and Infidel Noodle as well. Although she doesn't make as much content anymore. But that's all right. So we've got a few things lined up for today. I know in the thumbnail we've got a little bit about America. I thought we could go into that because, yeah, it's been really interesting watching all that from Australia, because this is not something that generally happens here very often, or not at all. Especially on both sides. That is, number one, We don't have something like ICE. In fact, I believe in Australia there's something like 100,000 illegal immigrants. Australia doesn't really have a lot of people crossing in on inflatable boats because we actually ran one of the most successful border operations in the world that completely, essentially, within a day, it stopped all illegal immigration that way. All of illegal immigration to Australia at the moment is from people either overstaying, they fly in, they overstay, or they apply for asylum. That gets rejected and they keep staying. So apart from that, it's not really that big of a problem. But for 100,000 people, I don't think there's any government in Australia that is going to create an agency like ICE to go after them. That's going to be political suicide, I think, for them to do that. But yes, Didi, you are absolutely correct. Having said that, the problem is Australia does have as much, if not even more, fraud. I believe the NDIS, which is probably the Australian equivalent to daycare fraud in the US, that is going to get bigger than our defense spending and our aged pension. So we're looking at that exploding to around $100 billion a year, which is insane. Like that forms like a massive part of the Australian budget, but that isn't servicing a lot of people. That's servicing, like, I believe the last time I looked, it was maybe like 500 to 600,000 people max. Obviously, if you know what the Cobra effect is, maybe I should explain that real quickly. The Cobra effect is in colonial India. What happened was the Englishmen, they said, look, we have an infestation of cobras. So if you kill them and bring them to us, we'll pay you. So what the Indians said was, they tried to scam the system. They immediately started breeding cobras and killed them and brought them to the English. So it kind of ruined the purpose of the whole thing. And that is essentially what is happening with the NDIs as well. If you think about it this way, I think 1 in 20 people in Australia now have one or more disabilities. And I think among young boys, it's something like 1 in 5 or 20% have a disability, usually being something like autism, which is a very large number if you think about it. Even if you're thinking about nation building into the future, we're looking at quite a significant number of people with disabilities. Now, why would that be the case? Well, I feel like it might be that people are playing the system. It's very easy to get qualified because, and look, I'm not saying I am actually a big supporter of having a system like that. Like, man, if your legs don't work, or you really do need support, like you cannot live or survive without it, absolutely, I think there needs to be a system like that to support these people. But what we have now, like, people just come up like with disabilities, multiple in fact, and they're getting government benefits, so they just stay home. And in areas like Western Sydney, with a large Islamic population there, similar to America actually, where a lot of these people are Somali Muslims. What they're doing is they have a bunch of children, like 4 or 5 children, and their family members are NDIS providers, so they're in the business, and they get paid, and they put all the kids on the NDIS. They claim every single one of them is disabled or autistic. Like, statistically, this is highly improbable, but it just keeps happening. And yesterday I did see a really funny video where I think Drew Pavlo and Peter Zed, who's also another YouTuber, they actually went to one of these NDIS places, and I commented on that, where, like, this place was meant to be shut down because of fraud, okay? But they reopened under a different name. So that is essentially called phoenixing. They opened up a new business. Same address, same contact number, same people, everything, and right next to their location, there's a door, and on the poster on this door is it's a money service provider. So so people who send money overseas, like your Western Unions and But this is more a very localized version of that. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I used to be in counterterrorism and anti-money laundering, and this was a massive problem in Australia, which is terrorism financing. So I was like, wow, this is so convenient for these people. So because this is run by what like women in hijabs. I was like, this is so convenient. They can get all these funds from the government, similar to what the Somalis do, because the American Somalis are the biggest funders of Al Shabaab in Somalia, which is one of the biggest Islamic terror organizations in the world. And the American taxpayer, if you believe it or not, is their biggest funder, primarily because they just take all the money they receive from these daycares and funnel them back to Al Shabaab. So so it's very similar. So it's like the NDIS funds these people, and right next door there's a money service provider. So they just funnel that money. So who knows where it's going? I think in Australia's case, it would probably be like Hezbollah and other Middle Eastern organizations. But beyond that, let's talk about what actually happened in Australia. In the US in regards to their ICE protests and the gentleman who died, whose name was Alex Preddy. Actually, you know what? Before that, I want to show you guys something really funny that I just saw. Let's see. So has anyone seen this? Like maybe it just like I woke up and it just came up literally this morning. Apparently some Epstein files got released, and this is about Bill Gates. Now before we get to the Alex Preddy bit, I just have to show you this. It's saying here, so Bill Gates God, this is funny. So Bill Gates is writing to Jeffrey Epstein, and he's saying the Russian girls that you've procured me on your island or whatever they have given me an STD, and I need you to sneakily give my wife a STD medication. And you can see some more details here. I'll read it out. What is it? To add insult to the injury, oh, that doesn't make sense. You then implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD. You request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda, and the description of your penis. You also made it clear to me that I am not to refer to... Yeah, that's censored out or redacted, as that is another topic that must remain between the two of us. In return for all these... in return for all of these requests, which I would have done without a second thought, I am not to attend meetings with Melinda. I should continue to provide you the same level of service and dedication that I have done so diligently until you are ready to discard me and our friendship. I don't know who Jeffrey Epstein really did have a lot of billionaires, and on top of that, I was always really confused about his fascination with bringing over philosophers and thinkers and scientists, like Stephen Hawking. Like they were all on that island. I was like, what is this guy's goal here? Like, is this really the type of influence that he's really after? But Bill Gates, I mean, back then, I believe he would have easily been the world's richest man for sure. And he's and we know for a fact that, especially after an email like this, that this guy was involved in a lot of shady shit on that island. I mean, he was. I mean, I probably cannot make an allegation, but it is hard to say as of this point that he did not get up to what Jeffrey Epstein is infamous for getting up to. I mean, it's just not probable at all. Now, beyond that, I have luckily saved some of these videos of Alex Preddy. Now, we all know, like, obviously I can't show you the video because I don't think it will be within YouTube guidelines to show you the video of him getting shot. But I can show you a video of him from maybe 10 days before he was shot. Now the problem here is after he died, I believe 10 rounds were fired into him, which is crazy. And I watched a few angles of this incident, and it looked like obviously he brought a gun, but you know what? In America, you have the First Amendment right, you have the Second Amendment right to carry. And maybe there was some technicalities around whether he needed to have ID on him when he was carrying this way. But at the same time, he did bring a gun to a rather dangerous situation. And what was reported later on was that, he was just a peaceful legal observer. But that appears to have been debunked now. That doesn't appear to be true. So this guy was obviously an ICU nurse, and video has now come out of him at these ICE raids or ICE operations 10 days prior to him dying. And to me, he certainly does not look like a peaceful legal observer. Just have a watch of this.
This is a moment the news movement filmed on January 13th in Minneapolis, showing a man who appears to be Alex Preddy interacting with federal immigration agents 11 days before Border Patrol shot and killed him. Our footage was analyzed by the BBC, whose facial recognition technology confirmed his identity to a 97% degree of accuracy. On the morning of January 13th, our team received a tip that federal agents were blocking a street at the corner of East 36 and Park Avenue in Minneapolis. We arrived around 10:15 a.m. We saw observers shouting at the agents as they walked back to their vehicles. When they started driving away, the man kicked their taillight. An agent then got out of the vehicle, grabbed him, and pushed him to the ground. During the altercation, agents fired tear gas and pepper balls into the crowd. They continued to hold the man down before they retreat, and he walks away. The man in our footage is wearing a similar outfit to what Preddy was wearing on the day he was killed. What appears to be a gun is also visible above his waistband.
Yeah, you can absolutely see the gun there. Yeah, right there. It looks like he had the gun
is
on.
Also visible above his waistband.
Are they actually saying this is AI? That's crazy. AI cannot generate something
he continues
that
to
this good.
stand at the scene.
Look, and
on the day he was killed, the Department of Homeland
retreat.
Security claims Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, approached officers holding a handgun. That claim has been contradicted by analysis of bystander videos from multiple news investigations, which concluded that Preddy was holding a phone, not a gun, when he was pinned to the street.
Yeah, no, that's the other thing, isn't it? Like like how do they say it's AI when there's multiple angles of this from multiple independent witnesses? It's just so weird they would make up something like that. But I have said this before. Like a lot of these people do appear to live in this deranged reality, a reality that's detached from what's actually going on. Like they have very little when they analyze risk, it seems like they don't believe that this is a dangerous situation at all. Like, look at these police officers and ICE agents. It's like they're heavily armed here, whether it's to control the riders or for self-defense. Like, how do these people believe that going in and actually getting in their faces or assaulting them or destroying the taillight as this guy's doing, or in the woman's Renee Goods situation, she was blocking them with a car. Like they were tailing these ICE operations. So I don't understand, like, these people, they believe, like, if you just disregard the fact that this is an ICE operation, maybe think about it like this is another police operation where police are heavily armed. Maybe it's some sort of hostage situation or something similar like that. In that case, who in their right mind is going to get in between the police and whoever the perpetrators are? You immediately are putting yourself in a really, really dangerous situation where you do have that risk. Like, the risk of dying is not zero. It genuinely exists. But I'm actually, a lot more sympathetic towards Alex Preddy, because I do believe this was a very unfortunate incident. What appears to have happened is the specific type of gun that he had. It is known to randomly just fire or misfire in this case, and it appears while they were all in this scuffle and they were trying to hold this person down, and the gun was actually confiscated from him at that point. It just went off randomly. Yeah, the SIG, it went off. It's just unfortunate. And the second it went off, the ICE, the officers, they believed like this guy was shooting at them or something like that. So they just emptied, 10 bullets in him and took him out. Like, I am sympathetic that, you know what, like, he did not, in my opinion, like, I actually think Renee Goods, like, in her situation, she almost certainly did not have good intentions there. But in this guy's case, yes, he's doing all this. He's destroying taillights. He's going after them. He's an agitator. We know that. That's not up for debate at all. But should he have died for this? No, I don't think he should have. But he did put himself in harm's way. He did bring a gun to this operation. Now that just multiplies that risk factor, doesn't it? Like none of the other protesters here, because they didn't have guns, there is no chance of anything misfiring or anything like that. So they are unlikely to have suffered the same fate. But in this guy's case, not only did he take a gun here, and he has a right to do so, as per the laws of the USA. You know what? Like, although if you're a conservative in the US, like, I feel like once you start saying, oh, he shouldn't have brought a gun to this or whatever, yeah, that could be a common sense argument, but is it a legal argument? I'm not so sure, because everybody should have that right, especially if it says in the law that you can. And he's not shooting up anybody, is he? Having said that, like I said, it increases the risk factor. And in this case, he's seen it firsthand. And unfortunately, he brought a pretty rubbish gun, which unfortunately misfired. I believe there was actually a video someone did, like someone who does who reviews guns and whatnot. Like, I saw it. I should have saved it. Maybe I can look it up. Where he was actually demonstrating how, and he was using empty chambers and that. He was demonstrating how, even with the safety on, this gun was just misfiring. Like, it was crazy to see. I was like, the chances. Like, this man, Alex Preddy, is extremely unlucky to have suffered this fate. He absolutely should have. I don't believe he was deserving of that. And I think, look, putting aside partisan politics, I think it is, like, you should be able to say that. Like, what happened to him should not have happened to him. That is what I believe. He did not deserve to die for this. It's just, yeah, correct, Nate. I agree. Did he deserve to die? Absolutely not. He was just a protester. I don't believe he was there to kill ICE officers or anything like that, as a lot of people have been saying. I absolutely don't believe that, because we have to judge this with the evidence that we have, and there is no evidence to suggest so. Yes, he's breaking taillights here, but that's still a car. He's not assaulting people. And even when the officers came out here and they grabbed him, it wasn't like he was throwing punches back. In fact, he didn't even have a gun there. He did have a gun, and it's not like he's getting it out to shoot at these people. Nothing like that happened. I believe it was just an unfortunate incident. But like I said, a lot of these people do not anymore live in reality. They live in this fantasy world where they are, Captain America, or they are Thor, and they are invincible. Like, they go out there, they're just completely delusional. Like, they do believe they are movie characters or TV show characters who are immune, and perhaps they even think dying or death is not so inevitable. Like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people who just cannot comprehend that one day they will die. I don't think these people have that thought when they confront these people or put themselves into dangerous situations. And the best evidence for that is the fact that it is not men like Alex Preddy who are going to these protests. It is, in fact, women. And I did a video on that as to how women are getting really radicalized. And you know what? If you think about it as well, yeah, LARPers is a great way to put it. If you think about it as well, these are really narcissistic people here. Like, on top of that delusion, there is a bit of narcissism there as well. Like, I know what's best. I will put myself into this operation because I know for a fact that I am on the right side. But who are these people who are getting arrested? Like sex offenders and murderers, people who are in the US illegally and they have committed the worst crimes. These are the people who are getting arrested. And yeah, when you kind of summarize this, when you when you look at it this way, Alex Preddy and Renee Good, they've died for like Somalis who are committing fraud. Was that worth it? Like, you are dying for fraudsters and sex offenders. Was that really worth it? Like, what drives you to do these things? You're a nurse. You're an ICU nurse. Maybe you could contribute to your community in a better way than this. To people who are actually there legally and who aren't committing all these crimes, the most serious crimes, in fact. Maybe there's a better way to serve your community. And you have also got to wonder, why Minneapolis? Why this particular city? What is going on? And I actually did read something really interesting about it. That this state, it actually has. It's not the type of leftist you get in places like California or New York. The really wealthy, the champagne socialist types. The LARPers, you could call them LARPers as well, because these are the billionaires and millionaires the really wealthy who latch on to leftist social activism type causes. But in the case of Minnesota, these are the people who migrated to this state are actually the Scandinavians, like actual real left-wing types, the socialist types you see in Denmark and Sweden and whatnot. They are the people who are there. So the type of leftism you see out of this city is very different to the type of leftism you see out of cities like New York, for example, or San Francisco. And that was a very, very interesting thing that I read, and I think that explains a lot as to why this particular city, because it only has 500,000 people, and yet ICE has been operating in like Texas and Florida, and I believe they've been arresting even more people. And if you think about places like Texas where these are border states, like you could imagine why they're there, but we have not heard of anything similar to what's going on in Minneapolis, like people like this aren't getting shot during operations. Like, nothing like this is happening, and I believe this is part of it. Like, the type of leftism actually differs from these states, and perhaps this one is really pure grade type of leftism, and not the champagne socialist type. And that is exactly why what this is happening. And I don't know what Donald Trump and Tim Walz have talked about, but I hope that they can come to some sort of resolution, because this absolutely cannot keep going. I know one of the heads of one of the agencies, maybe the Border Protection Agency, I think he's been moved to a different position now. Maybe that was part of that conversation, but we do know Tim Walz, in his case, due to the significant amount of fraud, well, a lot of government officials were involved. And actually, going back to this, if you saw all the signal chats that were leaked recently from Minneapolis, you could see that a lot of government officials were actually involved. You know, these are public servants, like teachers and nurses. Like, this guy was a nurse, and elected officials, people close to Tim Walz. They were all involved. So you can see how these protesters, they're also able to follow these ICE agents around. You know, like, they know exactly where the operations are going to be. They can run number plates real quickly. They can do all of that because there are people within agencies in the city, within the top levels of government, who are actually helping them. Like, this is such a coordinated effort. Like, when I saw the signal, let me see if I can find it. Oh, signal. Maybe I can find this. Yeah, Cam Higby was the one who actually yeah, look at that. Like, just the amount of people, it's insane. And apparently, like, they have these group chats in there, and what they do is at the end of the day, they just delete it and just create new ones. They just make sure you just cannot go in and figure out who's involved and what they're up to. I actually, you know, when I saw this, one of the first things I actually did wonder. Actually, let me just wake up my dog. I think she's having a nightmare. Yeah, like the world's biggest leftist streamer in Hassan Piker, I also have my dog here today, but she's obviously off screen because I don't use her as a prop. Nor do I electrocute her to stay in one spot. So there's that. No, there is none. She's fast asleep. In my case, unlike Hassan, in my case, what's going on is I don't need to ask her. I don't need to torture her for her to stay in the same position. She actually likes staying next to me, unlike his dog. So I guess that's the difference. There was something about who's the there's a lawyer. Yeah, there you go. But there was someone at the very top. I don't know if you've also seen this guy. He's been just talking. He has some really significantly violent rhetoric going on. This guy, I think he's on Instagram and TikTok as well. He's just talking about killing police at this point. I'm just trying to see if I can find who it was. Maybe it's not here anymore, but it was someone at the very top. I was really surprised when I saw this, actually. No, it's not her. Maybe I can't find it at the moment. Is that her? No, I don't think that's her. But then again, it's like I said, none of this is organic. Like, absolutely none of this is organic. Like, it's highly organized types of activities that's going on in the US at the moment. And look, you know, like, I know the left are quite violent these days. Just remember what they did to Charlie Kirk. Remember their reaction to when Trump got shot twice, or got shot and there was a second assassination attempt. All these incidents, we know exactly what they are like. And I also do think at a certain point, the right is going to run out of patience. They are going to be like, and I feel like in the US, especially where, we're just heading to all these extremes, I feel like there will be a lack of sympathy for people like Alex Preddy, because I have struggled to find it on the right, to be completely honest with you. Maybe for Renee Good, there was a little bit more, which is weird. Maybe because she was a woman, but I think there's a serious case to be made that she was actually in the wrong there, and she was also deranged. Let's get that straight. But at the same time, I'm finding that there is a lot less sympathy towards these agitators now who are dying from the right, and I feel like that is a result of the left's reaction to people like Charlie Kirk being shot. And Charlie Kirk's become a meme now. There's a song about him, "We Are Charlie Kirk," and the phrase being Kirkified is now it's an internet term. Like, you go on Instagram, it's like everything's Charlie Kirk. AI images of him fighting Jeffrey Epstein. Like, it's just they've just made it a thing. So I just don't feel like the right is. There's also this thing, like I've always noticed, especially like across the US, Australia, everywhere, where the right was always like, oh, we shouldn't stoop to these lows. We shouldn't be like them. We should try to be better. And I feel very strongly that the left has used that against the right. Like, the less the right are willing to defend their own, the left have been like, you know what? We're going to keep pushing the limits because we know the right aren't going to respond at all. Like, they're not going to do anything. And they don't really do anything. So I believe that sympathy is less. Look, is it good for society? No, not really. It's really not, because you cannot run a functional society where there is no sensible center. You cannot run a society where there's people on the far left and far right, and those are the only options. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And I think a lot of people might not like Bernie Sanders, but I thought it was actually really great of Bernie Sanders, when Charlie Kirk died, for example, to put out a video which I think got like millions of views, saying how bad this was. And ironically enough, out of a lot of left-wing politicians in America, I actually quite like Bernie Sanders. I think he's rather reasonable. And compared to someone like Ilhan Omar, for example, whom we will get to in a second, who, goes from a six-figure salary to like something like $30-40 million net worth in a matter of years, or the Nancy Pelosi's, who, they trading the stock market, they're actually better than Warren Buffett. I feel like someone like Bernie Sanders is a significantly better human than them. Yeah, he has a couple of houses. Like, I feel like the conservatives in America, they're always like, yeah, Bernie Sanders, he's got 4 houses and whatever. And then when you actually look at it, it's like the house he inherited, a house his wife inherited, and like another house that he bought off selling his books. Like, and the extremely modest houses as well. It's not like Barack Obama or Nancy Pelosi with their mansions, beachfront mansions, with a bunch of that they bought for like $50 to $100 million. Nothing like that. So I do respect him quite a bit for that. But I feel like he's a dying breed. Someone like him, you're not going to see him anymore. What we're going to see are more like, yeah, you know what? Trump, like, those guys on X and wherever who were like, oh, it's a shame that weird kid missed when he took aim at Trump. Or when Charlie Kirk died, even in Australia, there was like Hannah Ferguson who was like, she was really clever in how she said it. She wasn't like, you know what, I support this shooting. The way she said it was very clever on Instagram, where before she had to disable comments, she was like, "Oh, am I glad Charlie Kirk isn't around anymore to spread his hateful rhetoric? Yes, I am." That's what she said. And the other thing she said was, it was like a question and an answer, and she was like, "Oh, do I think violence is sometimes necessary in politics?" And then she goes, "Yes." And the pushback was so significant that she disabled comments. And I believe, like, it, at that period, a lot of news outlets in Australia actually had to disable their comments, primarily because all the left-wing supporters, they were just flooding comments saying, yeah, he deserved it. Yeah, we should do this to all right-wing people. So, like, the mask was slipping. No matter what they do, they couldn't contain this messaging. Like, the mask is slipping. And they were like, yeah, we've really got to figure this out and stop this before we give everyone the impression that the left is really violent these days. And to be honest, they are. Like, it's not a surprise anymore. But the unfortunate thing is we are going to probably see a response to this. And I think we are seeing a little bit of that. And I think the lack of sympathy, the lack of empathy is part of that as well. Good morning to a couple of you guys who've just joined in. There was a question as to where I was born before I moved to Australia. I was born in a tiny ass country called the Maldives. It's one of the few countries in the world that claims to be 100% Muslim, which is completely false. But they also infamously have the death penalty for apostasy. So yeah, I certainly had fun with that. And the way, if you've, this is just me going on a bit of a tangent here, but if you know anything about the Maldives, you know it for its beaches and all rich celebrities going over there for holidays and that. But it's a very different life for tourists versus people who actually live there. If you're a Christian, you're gay, whatever you are, you can go there. Recently, they actually banned all Israelis from going. You can go there, you can enjoy your holiday. You would not be aware of what goes on in real life. You could say that just across on another island. Like, you cannot leave your religion because there's the death penalty, and to protect that tourism industry, the government's not going to go and grab you and have a public execution. No, they don't do that. They hire people to just get rid of you, in this case, to kill you extrajudicially. So that means they have plausible deniability that they had any involvement. What they do is just, once a bunch of criminals kill the apostate or whatever, they just cover it up and they're like, all right, we'll investigate, and they don't investigate, and that's the end of it. So you cannot convert to Christianity. Like, even if you are a tourist, if you have a Bible, if you have a cross, anything like that, if you try to, get that through customs at the airport, they won't let you. They'll require you to throw that all away. So it's very strict in what you can do in terms of, there is no freedom of religion or freedom of speech. So when I speak about these things, it's not like, I'm reading about it from someplace. These are things that I know for a fact happens. I know what people perceive to be extremists say about Islam. I know how it operates when it becomes the majority. I know the disdain it has for Christians and Jews and people of other faiths, like all other faiths. Christians and Jews primarily, because that is what Islam talks about more specifically. Because I'm not even sure if Muhammad and his crew were aware of things like Buddhists and Hindus, which were older religions than Islam at that point. But Christians and Jews are the most talked about. I know the hatred that is created within schools and due to preachers. Like, most of these kids would never meet a Christian or Jew when they're growing up. Never. Like, in real life, they would have never spoken to one. They would have never met a person who's gay. They wouldn't meet anyone like this, and yet they are taught so much hate. They're taught to hate for no other reason apart from the fact that you are different. And yeah, it's funny that Lakemba gets mentioned. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of what I say is to ensure that we, whether it's Australia, the US, the UK, parts of Europe, that people who live in these places understand that there is a turning point. There is a Rubicon that they'll cross where it's very difficult to come back from, where they take over institutions. Like you see this in Dearborn, for example, when Muslims took over all their local elections and they actually won. The first thing they did was just get rid of all the LGBT flags. In the UK, for example, once there are enough Muslim parents, what do? They get all the lessons about the fact that gay people exist removed, or like children cannot learn about the freedom of expression, the freedom for people to even make fun of Islam, for example. Like for me, like I know a lot of Christians, and they all understand that if they are to live in, say, Australia, for example, that people who are not Christian, because of the laws, because of the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion, other people should be able to make cartoons if they wanted, or other types of satire, like South Park does it. All these people do it, and these Christians, or even Jews for that matter, aren't going in and forcing teachers into hiding, or shooting up the buildings of cartoon magazines, or attacking the Salman Rushdie types 30 years later. This does not happen. So I feel like going back to what I'm saying, if the population does increase, if nothing's done about immigration, if nothing's done about integration, none of these things are done, and politicians just assume we're all some economic zone where there's no shared identity, there's no shared sense of why these nations are what they are, then okay. Like, I always ask this really funny question, actually. I always ask, like, all these really leftist types. I often ask them on X, especially people in government positions who are outspoken, and they're all like, "Oh, these comments are so Islamophobic and whatever. Like, you shouldn't say about this about Islam." They have no clue what they're talking about. And I always say, "Hey, Islam's such a great religion, isn't it? So you surely wouldn't mind if Australia was, say, 90% Muslim, yeah? Like, you think it's such a great religion and we should have just unfettered immigration. It doesn't matter what religion they follow. Like, they're all Muslim. They can come and set up their Sharia courts and have their call to prayer. They can read the Quran and preach from their Quran that preaches all this hate, all this. They don't, like, if you think about the gay marriage vote, for example, like, all the areas that are heavily Muslim in Australia, they will never tell you this. They all voted no for the for the gay marriage vote. They all voted no. If you zoom into these areas, they're all heavily Muslim. And even today, like the organizations that represent Muslims in Australia, their official position is that homosexuality is not allowed in Islam. This is not something these progressives will talk about, which is why I always ask them, if this is all so good, surely you wouldn't mind then if Australia or the UK or the US was 85% Muslim. Or we can even bump that figure higher. 90% Muslim. No problem, right? They can never answer that because inherently they all know that Islam has a lot of problems. That they would rather live in a country where the majority are still people practicing the Christian faith rather than Islam. Like, even Richard Dawkins has said this. Like, someone that I looked upon quite a bit when I was growing up, because he was one of the few people courageous enough to actually talk about Islam and confront it head on. And this was when, the left weren't really that crazy about Islam yet. They were the ones who were leading the more non-religious type movements online and that. So Dawkins, he was seen as one of the leaders of that movement, and he was able to confront it. And today, believe it or not, today he goes, yeah, I think I'm a cultural Christian. I would rather like the UK be entirely Christian than Islamic. Yeah, they all know that. They all know that. And this brings me to speaking of the UK, there's news coming out, and this is another, one of those news stories where you're like, are you sure this isn't real? Surely, like, is this from the Babylon Bee or the Onion? Because this can't be real. But it's the UK with a Y, OOKAY. It's the UK. I have a video actually about that coming out. Hopefully this weekend. It's the UK where anything's possible, especially weird shit like this. You know what? I was really like, the word almost escaped my mouth just then, and I think I can say the word retarded. It's back. It's back in the cultural vocabulary, in the cultural zeitgeist. Retarded is back. Yeah. So retarded shit like this coming out of the UK shouldn't surprise anyone. So this guy, whose name is Shahid Butt, who was found guilty of plotting to blow up the British consulate in Yemen many years ago, highly regarded. And he was also in his younger years, he was part of really violent Muslim groups. He is now standing for election in Birmingham. And before I play this video, now a lot of people, like, when this news came out, they were like, "Oh, this is disgusting. How could this be?" Well, actually, there's a very easy answer to that, a simple answer. He wouldn't have run if he didn't think he had a chance. He wouldn't have run if he didn't think he had enough support. He's confident enough that there are so many Pakistanis and Bangladeshis in Birmingham. We all saw what happened with Birmingham with the whole Aston Villa fiasco. It's just a place that's completely lost. Like, it's an Islamic city now. He knows he has that support. And, let's take away the terms about radical Islam or Islamism or Islamist or what extremist. Take away all of that. They don't care. Muslims vote for him because he's Muslim. For Muslims, there is really no difference. Like, for a lot of Muslims, they don't really differentiate radical Islam from Islam, especially the Sunni ones. That's something the progressives do. And I put up a post on X recently saying the only reason we really do this is so that we can keep talking about Islam without being labeled bigots or whatever. That's why we put in these terms. Otherwise, you know what? There's only one Islam. All right, so let's see what this gentleman here has to say, because this is very interesting.
Of Spark Hill, a community angry at the war in Gaza and how politicians here have dealt with it.
But I have had some young people calling me.
Shahid Butt says he has regrets, but insists he's no terrorist. In 1999, he went on trial, seen here as part of a group of 10 who were convicted of plotting to bomb Western targets in Yemen, including the British consulate.
To many, that won't sound like the behaviour of somebody who's deserving of public office.
So let's put things into context. This is something that happened 30 odd years ago. Yeah?
Doesn't mean it didn't happen.
No, like I said, if you hear me out, this happened 30 years ago. It was a fabricated charge. I was falsely convicted. I was tortured into signing a confession. At the time, the world's media saw, when I went into court, I told the judge that I'd been tortured and that I reject all of these accusations.
The court rejected the claim he was tortured into admitting guilt. He went on to serve a 5-year sentence, while his family spoke out to the media back home, calling for his release.
What did you do that made you in a position to be in court, accused of plotting a bombing campaign, and then sentenced to 5 years?
I was in Yemen not to do any acts of terrorism. At that time, Yemen was a hotbed of Al-Qaeda terrorism. Britain, America was accusing Yemen of supporting and promoting terrorism. When we turned up there, British citizens, then it's like, well, actually, Britain is exporting terrorism to our country. So I became a political football.
Do you think you meet the...
Hold on. That still doesn't answer the question of why he was there. Like, if Yemen was a hotbed of terrorism in the 90s, especially with Al-Qaeda operating there, and you knew US and British authorities were operating there, why was he there? You weren't part of the authorities. You weren't part of any of that. So why exactly were you there? Like, he hasn't answered the question. Like, I don't know if you noticed that, but he did not answer that question. Well, because he's a fucking liar, that's why.
standards that are expected in public office? Knowing everything you've done deep down, do you really think that?
I think I'm above the standards. I've done more than, I will bring more than what the standards bring. The person of 30 years ago was a young, angry, at times confused, naive young man. Do I regret it? Of course I regret it.
Yeah, you probably regret not being able to succeed with your plot, to be honest. So, this is the guy. Shahid Butt. So Shahid Butt, sorry, I think I'm mispronouncing his name. So Shahid is, for some reason, in Yemen at the time, for no good reason. And the other thing I noticed him saying was, he's like, yeah, it's not actually Yemen or Al-Qaeda exporting terrorism at the time. You've got to remember, this is only a few years before 9/11. And he's like, no, it's not Al-Qaeda that's exporting terrorism. It's actually the UK exporting terrorism. And only a few years later, 7/7 would happen. And I'm sure this guy was pleased about that. So his background is not normal. His background, this guy's a convicted terrorist. Like, that label is not false. That label is 100% accurate. And based off his own words, of his own story, and the fact that a judge rejected his claims that he was being tortured to give testimony or admit his wrongdoings, yeah, he does answer like a Penny Wong. He is not being entirely truthful. And guess what? Like, this is what I always say. Especially, like, when I have had conversations around these things before, I always say, these people are never going to tell the truth as long as there's these progressive white Western people there watching. Because they know they've got to use the useful idiots to advance their causes. And they cannot make the progressives look bad. Therefore, they have to lie. And I always say, you know what? All these people talking about Aisha's age when she got married, or all the other bad shit in Islam. I always say, if there is like a bunch of progressives around me and I'm talking to a Muslim, I feel like I would always ask the Muslim, is it better for us to just have this conversation alone, away from all these people, so that you and I can stop bullshitting each other and get to the actual point? And you can start telling me the truth, and I can actually respond to what you actually think, rather than you playing this role, this little Tagiyah performance for everybody. Let's do that. That's what I've always thought about these people. And I think this person's the exact same way. And of course, if you know this gentleman, Ahmad Yaqub, who's a very wealthy lawyer, who ran for parliamentary position in the British elections last time, and he has this really infamous photo where he's standing in front of his billboard, like it's behind him, his campaign billboard, and on the billboard it says something like, "Oh, Muslims, unite for Palestine, vote for Ahmad Yaqub," or something like that. And it's really ironic. Like, it's just so perfectly captures modern day Britain, because right behind that billboard and right behind him was this building that was it was completely destroyed. The windows were shattered. Like, it just did not look like it was in good shape. And this is the sort of, like, it looked like it was an apartment complex. And everything behind him, like, it just looked really, like, old and destroyed and not up to standard for human beings to live in. And it really showed you while these people are trying to get elected to champion foreign causes that are more related to their sectarian beliefs, their Islamic beliefs, the actual country they're living in is falling apart. They don't actually care about any of that. They care more about their sectarian grievances. That is that is what's important to these people, and that's what they think. Now, let's have a look at what our old friend Ahmed Yaqub has to say about Mr. Shahid Butt.
In Sparkhill, Alhamdulillah,
No.
this is for the Shahid Butt, and he is your candidate for the upcoming council elections in May. In Sparkhill,
Okay, I thought he would have something more to say about that.
He wants to
All right. He is something that's even more revealing as to the type of ideas that he has. And you know what? He probably has a really good chance of winning this. Because, you know, like, who are you trying to get votes out of? You're trying to get votes out of Muslims in a heavily Muslim area. So even a person like that, to that population, it's not that extreme. It really isn't. It's like, oh, we're just electing someone who's part of our group. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And he speaks for us. He speaks our language. He has the same ideas that we have. And he can also lean on this victim status, you know, like Muslims. Like, it's something that's ingrained in people from day one as a child. Like, and it's not just in these countries. It's all over the Islamic world. There's this weird victimhood that they all believe in. Like, we are always persecuted and all that, which is weird considering there's like 2 billion Muslims in the world and there's like 57 Islamic countries where they do all the oppressing and persecuting. That much is clear. But they always believe they are the persecuted ones. And in this case, yeah, his potential constituents are going to vote for him. And let's have a look at what he has to say to his supporters.
You need to be earning halal rizq, and you need to be in that gym, doing that MMA, doing that boxing, lifting those weights, strengthening yourselves up, so that if anyone comes into your face, remember, Muslims are not pacifists. If somebody comes into your face, you knock his teeth out. That's my message to them.
If he has any teeth.
If they have teeth.
Okay, so, like, brother.
Yeah, I'm not going to listen to what this guy has to say. He just talks a bit of nonsense. Maybe Shahid has. Yeah. So, yeah, they're not pacifists. We already knew that. I don't think the progressive types do believe that really well, because they think Islam is... They actually do think Islam is some sort of pacifist religion. Obviously, this is not based off any scripture. It's not based off any of Islam's history. It's all based off wishful thinking. But he's saying here clearly what they want. He's saying here very clearly what people in his community should be doing. Also, although one thing that he's saying his community absolutely doesn't do is earn in a halal or legal way. No, like, are you really saying all these barber shops that are propping up on high streets, all these desert shops and all that? No, this is all money laundering. Like, even if you look at the US, you've got the Somali daycare fraud. You look at Australia, you've got NDIS fraud. All this is money laundering and earning money illegally. And if you actually knew this, like in the UK and in Australia, Muslims actually have a massive role in the drug trade as well. Like, they don't do these drugs, but they are very, very okay with the infidel kuffar taking drugs and ruining their lives. You know, the hard drugs. That's the type of people they are. So, yeah, and the tobacco shops as well. All the tobacco wars in Australia, like all the violence between those groups, all run by this
Halal rizq, and you need to be in that gym.
Now, this part, you know what? I am all for people getting fit, getting into the gym, learning MMA or whatever they want to lead a healthy life. But the reason this guy is saying all this isn't because he wants people to be healthier. He wants what could essentially be a shadow police force in his community. He wants enough young military-aged men who are able to get on the streets, as we have seen, by the way, in Birmingham and Tower Hamlets, they want to raise a bit of an army so that there's nothing an opposition can do. Now, the opposition obviously doesn't have to be some right-wing group. The opposition can be, for example, people living in these cities who don't want to hear the call to prayer 5 times a day, and they protest, as is their right to do so. He wants an army that is going to be able to confront those people. He wants an army that is going to be able to confront a Christian prayer group, or a bunch of Jews, or visiting Israeli football teams. That is what he wants. On top of, you know, people gathering, as is their right in a liberal democracy, to oppose someone like him, or to oppose Sharia courts, or child marriage, or domestic violence in these communities. That is what he wants. So that you no longer rely on established institutions to solve these problems. You don't rely on the tenets of democracy. You don't go to courts. You are not able to protest. You are not able to go to council meetings and voice your opinions. None of that is no longer any more possible if you have a personal army, a personal sectarian army, by the way, who's willing to go and confront all of these people and put a stop to them. Sheikh Uthman, thank you very much for that.
Most peaceful part of star and crescent emoji is Momo's night with the owls. Also many Pakistanis own liquor stores in the US.
Yeah, that absolutely. Thank you for once again reminding us of the night of Al-Zot. Yeah, and these people want to confront you if you ever bring up the fact that Muhammad had a, what should we call it? That's a bit safe for YouTube. A Diddy party with the men of Al-Zot. Lots of baby oil involved. That is their goal. And you know what? Like, you might think, oh, it's surely that's not possible. It is actually very possible. In fact, it's happened. We have seen their little shadow police force. We have seen their little armies. We have seen it in the aftermath of Southport. We saw it in the aftermath of that Israeli team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, I believe, when they wanted to come and play Aston Villa in the Europa League. We saw these people mobilizing, and they were actually going to very violently confront visiting fans. That was what was later revealed. And guess what? The actual police in these cities, they're so scared of these shadow armies that they are willing to lie about how violent they are to protect them. And I also believe that part of it, you know, they always talk about social unrest and whatever. That social unrest, or the break in social cohesion, all of that comes from the fact that they are too scared, not only of there being backlash, you know, online or whatever, but backlash in this form. In the form of military-aged young Muslim men taking to the streets violently and usually armed to confront anybody who has said anything against their ideas or their communities, which they have the right to say, by the way. Yeah, they want to strike terror in the hearts of the infidel, as it is written in the Quran. That is exactly what this guy's preaching. So when he talks about, oh, you know what, I was tortured to admit to the fact that I was a terrorist, you can see very clearly why this guy might be lying to you. Like, you don't need to even read between the lines here to know that, yeah, he's probably lying. He's only saying that because there's some journalist from the BBC or some other left-wing outlet there. That's why he's lying. He wants to present himself to the progressives, who will also, you know, if they live in the area, who will vote for him. He wants to present himself as the persecuted victim. But the reality is, you know what? These people are the ones who are persecuting others, and we're not talking about other countries. We're not talking about Islamic countries. We're talking about in countries like Britain. That's where it's happening. I do believe there's a bit more from Shahid Butt. Oh, here we are. And this actually adds to my point as well. You'll see exactly.
Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, do not take the Jews or Christians as your friends and protectors. People say, oh, what you say, we can't make friends. You understand the verse, understand the context. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you that these people, the disbelievers, will never be satisfied with you. No matter how much you bend over for them, they will never ever be satisfied. So stick with your deen, stick with the Muslims, and for good or for worse, hold your ground. Yep. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran.
Now, why? Like this is a verse that is very often used, where God commands Muslims not to be friends or allied with Christians and Jews. I mean, I always thought this is pretty literal scripture and pretty basic stuff, honestly, from Islam. It's only recently where progressive types have been trying to pervert this message. I don't know how they're possibly trying to say that this isn't what Islam teaches, or you even have progressive Muslims trying to lie about it. But this is what the Quran says. That you are not to take Christians and Jews as your friends or allies, and you should just stick to your own people, which are the Muslims. Now the problem with this is, number one, it gives them a direct incentive to never ever integrate. But there is also an irony here, because this Shahid Butt says, you know what, no matter what you do, the Christians and the Jews will never be satisfied with you. All right, Shahid. If the Christians are not satisfied with you, why are you, a convicted terrorist who tried to blow up the British embassy in Yemen, Britain, which is home to the Church of England, a Christian people traditionally, they still have you in their home, and you are able to run for political office in their home. And yet you don't think they'll ever accept you, while you're living evidence of the fact that they have, in fact, to their detriment, accepted you. They have accepted you despite the evil that you are, despite what you have previously tried to do, which would have, if you succeeded, resulted in people dying, and yet they have accepted you. And in fact, you know what? In Pakistan, when the was it the Mirpur Dam disaster happened? It was the British people who took in thousands of your people, the Christians that you're saying do not accept you. They are the ones who took you and gave you refuge. It wasn't the Indians. It wasn't anyone else.
Shahid Butt, no. It's Shahid Zut Zut in the butt.
Thank you, Sheikh Uthman. Yes. Look, Shahid Zut. It was these evil British Christians who took your people in, gave them refuge, put them in housing, and they keep doing it to this day. They're spending billions of dollars a month to house Pakistani Muslims who are fleeing from God knows what. They're not fleeing from anything. They're not persecuted. They are the ones persecuting other minorities in Pakistan. And yet they're housing your people in hotels, destroying local towns and villages for your benefit. And you're saying, hold on just a minute. These people will never accept us. Well, they have accepted you. And it was a big mistake on their part, because now they're suffering the consequences of accepting you. And they continue to do so. Obviously, now there is a backlash after a certain boundary has been passed. And yet you're still like, and the irony even grows even further when he's like, oh, you know what? We're still not going to take these people as our friends or allies. It's just crazy. It genuinely is crazy to me that this is the type of person who is now standing for office in the UK. Like, in the past, I feel like a lot of these people, like, I remember there's this really famous clip. I don't know, maybe I can show you. Let's see. It's of Richard Dawkins. Penalty for apostasy. You can see, like, this is 17 years ago.
What is the penalty for...
You can see in this clip, before I play, you can see how hesitant or reluctant they are to say what they actually think out loud very quickly. And that was only 17 years ago. Now compare that to what Shahid Zat is saying today.
for leaving the Muslim faith?
To be honest, I cannot back that point up.
Dr. Mukadam, what is the penalty for apostasy?
And, before...
Coming down this apostasy... Give us a quick answer on what is the penalty for apostasy, and we'll come and do it.
You very well know, if it's an Islamic country, then the Sharia is very clear. Apostasy is dealt with the death penalty.
Thank you, that's all I want to hear.
But what's the relevance between what happens in an Islamic country and Great Britain? I fail to see the connection.
Okay, I see a great connection.
Like, see, even the girl, and even he was stuttering. He was sweating. He was concerned that, you know, he had to actually say what he thought, or what Sharia actually said about apostates. See the difference here? Like, that was only 17 years ago, when people like Christopher Hitchens were already warning people, hey, if you don't nip this in the bud right now, today, they're going to start... The term Islamophobia has already entered the vocabulary of the mainstream, and this is only going to get worse. If you don't address the problem today, it's going to get much, much worse. And I guess people didn't really heed his warning, and this is where we're at now. We've gone from that guy stuttering to say out loud what Islam actually prescribes in its religion, to this guy being like, yeah, we shouldn't take Christians and Jews as our friends. And you know what? On top of that, I'll make such a statement and I'll run for office and I will get elected, because that's where we're at the moment. That is just insane to me. Also, I just need to show you guys this video before we move on.
Share the stream, people. Cheers to the Cyber Dingo.
Thank you very much, Quadrex, for that. Glad you joined as well. And that is true. Make sure share the stream, spread the love. Oh my god.
I love how every person protesting for an open border is either gay, fucking retarded, fat as fuck, or a fucking tranny. There is no normal people protesting for open borders. It just shows that the open borders are only for retards and fucking spastics.
Oh, yeah, it is true. It is harsh, but it is true. Like, look at these people. Like, none of these people are normal, are they? Like, there's a Muslim standing next to a they/them, a very overweight they/them, and then there's just a bunch of crazy leftists and red-haired ones. Like, this is just the most dysgenic group of people you could conjure up in one place, talking about the far right. Hey, lady, you are the far right. You have significantly more far right ideas than the actual British far right. Your people are talking about not taking Christians and Jews as friends, and you can actually go further into Islamic scripture where they prescribe what should be done to Christians and Jews once you gain power. And yeah, this person's pretending to be like she's against the far right, and this person here who's clearly transgender, he or she or they, whatever, does not know what this person would do if they gain power. Like, have they ever paused to ask themselves, what Islamic nation legalized gay marriage? What Muslim majority has legalized gay marriage? What Muslim countries, out of a long list, has a lot of rights for gay people or lesbians? None of them. 0%. Yeah, Iran has this weird thing where they take someone like this and they'll castrate them and turn them into a woman. Or the Iranian regime, this is what they do to gay people. They castrate them and turn them into women. That is the punishment. That is how you stay alive as a gay person. It's either that or you get executed. It's yeah. Although that has nothing to do with Islam though. That is just Iranian regime bullshit. Oh, actually, yeah, I actually missed this when we were going through Alex Preddy earlier. But when mainstream news reported, I believe it was MSNBC, reported on him, they actually edited his photo where they made him they made him look much more handsome. Look at him. Like they refined his jawline, fixed up his teeth, fixed up his nose, maybe fixed up his balding issue slightly, made him look a little bit more muscular. Like, look at him. He looks significantly more muscular there. Like, he looks... This is not him. Like, this is absolutely not him. I wonder what the... I wonder what the prompt would have been. They just put in his photo and they go, hey, ChatGPT, make this dude look significantly more handsome. Is that what they did? Like, they actually did do this. And yeah, and they just yeah, this photo, like people making fun of him. Fun of what MSNBC
How many
did.
kufr countries have Bachabazi, cope and see the Islamophobes?
Yeah, it's true. And that's there's actually scripture, Sheikh Uthman, where you could argue that Muhammad actually did talk about how there'll be young boys, similar to the Bashabazis in Afghanistan, who would serve Muslim men in heaven, which is really weird. Maybe we can talk about that another day. But yeah, this is another photo of Alex Preddy. There's a few comments here. Yeah, unfortunately, this is actually of a soldier who was infamous, who died in the Iraq War, I believe. But they've put his face there. Tim Walz, according to the media. Yeah, that I would completely believe. More Alex Preddy. Yeah, and if you recall, yeah, look at him. Why didn't they use this photo? That looks sick, actually. That's a really good edit. They should have used this photo and said this is him. Yeah, and if you recall, like they edited Joe Rogan's photo during COVID. They just made him look real sick. Put like this yellow filter on his egghead, and just made him look a lot worse than he was. And that was one of the first times you saw it being so blatant, the type of lies in mainstream media to that extent. But yeah, I would hope if I was ever in the news, they give me also a nice edit like this. But maybe they only do it for their martyrs and not anybody else. And I actually did want to quickly, because I did say I had a thing about Ilhan Omar, and this actually, has anyone seen the Ilhan Omar video where one of her I was going to say supporters, because there was a photo of her with the person who allegedly attacked her with a syringe, and at the time everyone was like, oh, this must be some crazy chemical, in this syringe here that he shot Ilhan Omar with. But it turns out it was apple cider vinegar, and even Trump has come out and said, yeah, that might be staged. And I think so. Obviously we cannot just go ahead and claim something was staged. But my biggest issue with this is when he did do that, it was almost unrealistically, like she was almost unrealistically prepared. Like, she was ready to go Captain America on this dude, which I felt was not that organic looking. And we know the left, the American left, they have staged a lot of these attacks. We had Mr. Jussie Smollett, and there was also that race car driver with the noose in the garage, which turned out to be just a handle. So there have been hoaxes like this, quite a number of them. So is it that hard to believe this was a bit of a political stunt? We could never prove it, but have a look at this. Look at her. Like, she just charges in. She just charges in like she's the Incredible Hulk. Like she's going to fight him. This is what makes me think it's a little bit suspicious. Like, yeah, I agree. ZXD. If a politician, if say I were a politician and someone sprayed me with a chemical, I'd be very concerned. One of the first things I'll be trying to do is to ensure there's no contact on my actual skin. Try to get that shirt off, do something like that to protect myself, to try and create some space between me and the liquid as soon as possible. But in her case, this tiny, what might she be, like 50 kilos? This tiny 50 kilogram hijabi woman is running in to fight this guy. That is where I'm like, okay, this is a little bit suspicious. And the fact that there was nothing in the syringe that was actually harmful. It was just apple cider vinegar. And if you actually look at this guy, like does he seem like
and round of applause.
He's some sort of assassin or a person with access to those types of chemicals? In fact, I believe there's photos of him and Ilhan Omar, like selfies taken between the two. I don't know if I can find this now. Actually, is this the full video? Maybe I can get a better angle.
I don't know.
Oh my god! Oh my god! He sprayed something on her.
I need a napkin to know nothing. No, we will continue.
No. You need to go get checked.
No, we will continue this. Not gonna get away with it.
Yeah, I just find her reaction to this very suspicious. I really do. And the other thing was, I found it really suspicious because it was also apple cider vinegar. There's no images with her and the attacker. I'm sure there's like a selfie that they've taken. So that actually made me even more suspicious that Ilhan Omar attacker selfie. Let's see if I can find it. Oh no, that must be fake. This, look, although it is important to figure out if this is real or not, it might not be. Oh, hold on. Actually, that is fake. Oh, my bad. So I think these are AI photos. But what is not AI is actually the fact that this guy, yeah, his kids and all that, he was a very deranged left wing type. He was not some right wing attacker like people were saying. His kids all have blue hair, you know, they piercings and that, like they look like the typical lefty. Let me see. Children. Yeah. This is who he is. And why would Ilhan Omar, a Muslim, and also certainly one of the further left politicians in the US, what would the reason for this be? Like, do you think she's not gone further left? That would be highly improbable, I think, because how far left can you go from Ilhan Omar? Like, were you angry at the fraud? Were you mad that Ilhan Omar allegedly had a $15,000 stake in this winery that in the next year became worth $5 million and her net worth ballooned to $30 million? Like, what would the reason be? that is what I'm finding it very difficult to understand. And that is why, obviously, I wouldn't make the case before the facts are out. Maybe this guy is going to reveal why he did what he did, because he's certainly, you know, anti-ICE. He's got all this. He's just a typical lefty. He's a typical Minnesota lefty, and yet this is what he did. And Ilhan Omar's response was meant to look like she was a superhero jumping in to fight this guy and get all those internet points. It's almost similar to, do you remember the photo where AOC went to the border and then she's crying at the fence? Like, and actually there were no children or anything, but on the other side it was just a car park, but she staged that so that it looked like it was a really emotional moment. But people actually went there and they were like, wait a minute, there's just a car park there. There's nothing else there. And it just became a whole deal. And I feel like this is almost similar, but in this case, she's actually gotten someone to do it. This is probably the worst attempt. All evidence to me, in my head, leads me to think that, in typical fashion, we are going to quickly have a look at a little segment from Piers Morgan. This was a hard watch. I don't know if you've seen this one. This was a hard watch because people kept talking over each other, and it was just really difficult. Like Brandon Tatum, and I think this guy here, Tim, he asked Brandon Tatum to shut up, and it just became a big deal. But I think it was really good to understand the mindset of both the left and the right in the US in regards to the Alex Pretty shooting.
Them after they're dead. I think that the vast majority of Americans don't want that. You'll probably be able to find a couple of shills to come on and defend that on this show, but I think the vast majority of Americans say, no, we do not want murderous mass thugs anonymously killing our fellow Americans. And so I do think that is showing up in the polls. I think you're seeing Donald Trump's numbers erode massively, particularly among Hispanics, but also among young men, the libertarian types, the folks that really believed the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, the folks that really believed in the First Amendment, which protects free speech, which protects taping people in your community if you want to, as well as the Second Amendment, which protects your ability to carry a weapon. So the young men that flocked to Trump, I think, thinking that he was going to be a free speech president, are now seeing the truth. And I do think it's hurting him with them as well.
Yeah, Officer Tatum, welcome back.
Actually, I'm not so sure. I think there was data that showed that a large number of Americans did, in fact, approve of what ICE was doing. I don't think that's true.
Back to uncensored. I mean, the really frustrating thing for Donald Trump must be that a large part of his immigration policy has been extremely successful and well received. And I'm talking specifically about the basic closure of the southern border. You know, after years of Biden allowing millions of people to come in illegally, Trump has stopped it. That's a great win for his administration. It's something most Americans agree with. And yet here he is now getting quite negative polling about his immigration policies. And I think it's all come down to this issue of how the ICE agents are behaving in these rural areas and these back-to-back shootings, deadly shootings, of protesters.
Well, it's because of mindless people like the gentleman that just finished speaking is the reason why people have this perception that Donald Trump is somehow doing something wrong. They deported 600,000 people. They've deported people who have committed murder, rape, all kinds of dangerous and felonious crimes. Also, they're deployed in all 50 states. Why is Minnesota the only state that's having issues? And then to get on TV.
That's the question I asked as well. Why is it Minnesota specifically that has so much issues? And I think that goes back to what I said at the start of the stream, where it's specifically more leftist than the other leftist states.
How about if it was apple cider bacon spray?
Yeah. See, if it had bacon in it, that would have been more believable. then you could be like, wait a minute, this guy, there's a bit of a hate element involved, but it wasn't. It was apple cider vinegar. Like Ilhan Omar in a hijab, maybe he thought she was a salad.
And say that a guy is observing the First Amendment and Second Amendment while he's at a protest assaulting ICE agents, Border Patrol agents. He committed an assault, a felonious assault against the ICE agent. That's how he got into a physical altercation while carrying a firearm without notifying them.
What was the assault? When
the Border Patrol pushed the lady, he went hands on. That is a felony. You cannot do that.
He didn't assault anyone. But Brandon, here's the problem.
Is that not a felony crime?
When you say what you witnessed was an assault,
to physically assault.
Brandon, when you say hang on, let me finish.
Piers,
when you say what you witnessed was an assault by Alex Pretty on ICE officers, that is not what I witnessed.
Piers, because you don't live in America, you've never done law enforcement, you don't understand the law. And with all due
I've got a home in America. I've lived in America on and off for 20
I feel like that's
years.
not fair.
But I'm saying you are not vested in American law enforcement. When you grab somebody like Pretty did with an ICE agent, that is an assault, subject to an arrest. They had every right to take him down to the ground. He had a gun on him knowingly, came with multiple magazines.
But you should agree with that.
What? I don't agree with that.
Look, I was defamed there.
Well, hang on. Let me finish.
A Border Patrol agent.
Yeah, I will come back. Brandon,
if you
I have
want to
spent
peacefully
20
protest,
years.
you can carry a gun.
Brandon,
you can't assault
I have spent
and get into a conflict.
Fine. I spent 20 years working and living in America a lot of the year, right? So I know America very well. I've covered a lot of these stories over the years for CNN, for others, for Fox, for others, everyone, right? So you don't have to slightly patronize me with "you're not from these."
I'm not
parts.
patronizing.
I know
I'm just
America.
telling the truth because
I have a home.
having
I've owned.
experience in law
Hang
enforcement
on,
is a big
Brandon.
difference.
Let me finish. I've owned a home in Los Angeles for 16 years. Okay, so I do understand how law enforcement works in America. I understand what the law is, right? I understand all of these things, but I look at what happens. Immediately you say that if you take a gun to a protest, but that's exactly what I've heard.
No, when you fight people when you fight
hang on, Brandon.
While having a gun.
I haven't finished my question. For 20 years, I've battled with the NRA and with the conservative right about this issue of guns in America. And I eventually concluded this is an issue for Americans to resolve amongst yourselves. I respect that. It's your country, your culture, your laws, your guns. However, there is a blazing hypocrisy in this narrative that's been spewed about Alex Pretty that somehow one of the problems here was he was carrying a gun. He was carrying it legally.
No, the problem is not carrying a gun.
Under his Second Amendment rights.
We've listened to this enough.
Yeah, hold on. I think Piers and Brandon both actually make a good point, and I think this is what I alluded to earlier as well. He can carry a gun, but that just increases the risk, doesn't it? Like, Piers, are you not getting why he was shot? Because this specific type of gun, the SIG, is well known to have misfires, and that is why he got shot as well. Because as it was getting confiscated, it misfired. And the officers there thought that they were getting shot at by Alex Pretty, and they shot him 10 times. And I know in law enforcement, I've seen so many of these. It's not like Counter-Strike or some video game where you try to get those cool, sweaty shots where you try to get them in the head or whatever. It's not like that. They just try to eliminate the threat immediately, which is usually by just, shooting them in the torso, the largest area, as much as they can, and taking out the threat that way. So I don't know what he's alluding to.
It works for us.
That's what I thought.
They don't get to shoot American citizens
they
10
can
times
stop you
and shoot
from
6
obstructing
bullets
an
into our
investigation.
dead bodies. They don't get to push down women. They work for us. They represent us. We pay them. They need to use restraint and de-escalate. Okay, they're here.
But also, how do you de-escalate with people who don't want to de-escalate themselves? Like, we are seeing the fact that this is a very organized resistance to ICE operations in Minnesota. where he is also bringing a gun. We have seen videos of how he reacted or how he was behaving at previous altercations. This is not de-escalation. They're not de-escalating. In fact, you could argue they are also escalating pretty significantly, and this is just a pushback. Because how much harder can you push against these operations? How much more can you insert yourself between these agents and the people they're trying to get before you fall into physical harm yourself? And once you start carrying a gun that is known for misfiring, once you've just sort of lost touch with reality, that risk is just going to go through the roof.
To serve and protect us, not to push women around, not to shoot guys in the back of the
officials that Alex Preddy is a domestic terrorist or an assassin.
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun. But I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff. And despite that, I say that's a very unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that there was this thing where he was just a peaceful legal observer, but I don't. While it is your right to bring a gun to have concealed carry, as it is in America, it is still weird that a peaceful legal observer decided to bring a gun to these protests. Like he hasn't thought about this very well. Why would you bring that to one of these protests? Because the only people you're opposing are armed officers. There are no insurgents or far right armed gangs coming at you. There's none of that. There's just law enforcement. So that makes me also question that a lot. Obviously, I'm completely for people exercising their right as is guaranteed to them in law. But once again, we have to come to risk mitigation, and in this case, he did not mitigate the risk. In fact, he made it worse.
Now, the thing is, Jonathan, I've repeatedly heard Donald Trump say he's the biggest Second Amendment guy in America, right? How does that square with what he's saying there about this protester who was there, had a law
perspective that
nurse.
And that's the question to be resolved.
And it's not going to be resolved because the
parameters between left and right, where we can just agree when something like that happens, we all say this is terrible and shouldn't be happening.
Pierce, there's no jump to conclusion. I don't care about none of these people. They don't pay my bills. I don't have to say anything about Ilhan Omar. I don't really care about her. But the bottom line...
See, this is what I mean by... because we're in such a world where there is so much extremism from the left, especially when it comes to physical violence and taking out people like the Charlie Kirks and attempting to take out the Republican candidate in a presidential election. I feel very strongly that they will lose any amount of sympathy or empathy that the right might previously have had for them. The old school right wing might have been like, oh, we won't stoop to their level. None of that anymore. We're in a dangerous time.
And Donald Trump don't pay my bills either. But the bottom line is that I'm looking at this impartially. I don't know what anybody said. I saw the video, and it does not look consistent with someone trying to assault another person, which means I have never in my life seen a person get up, spray something out of syringe at someone's chest. It happened to be nothing, inert. And then she comes after him.
It wasn't inert. It was actually a very delicious salad dressing. What do you mean inert?
You didn't see her back away from him. You didn't see her shy away from him. You didn't see any of that
Brandon,
nature.
You would
and
say,
the guy didn't even resist.
Brandon, you would say the complete opposite if that was a Republican congressman.
That's not true.
Brandon, is the guy going to jail just for fun?
That's not true.
Is the guy going to jail just for fun? Is that part of the show? I just want to hear a little bit more about this theory. Please, just 1 second. There's just a question. I want to hear more about this theory. That guy.
I'm giving you the elements.
Is he going to jail for show? He's going to jail.
I'm giving you elements of why this looks strange to me. I
Okay,
don't
so
know
why do
for
you
a
think
fact.
he's going to
But
jail?
was
Is
there
it for a show?
something
Is
in
he
the
like
syringe?
Antifa? Is this part of like is this the lizard people?
Listen, was there anything in the syringe? It was inert. There was nothing poisonous. There was no pepper spray. There was nothing in the syringe to
I'm
start
asking
with.
you why you think he's
sprays
going to
her with the
jail for this.
syringe. He sprays her with the syringe in the chest. She goes after him. If you're afraid of somebody spraying you with a chemical agent, you're not going to pursue them. He resisted not one bit. He goes to the ground. She says,
So you don't believe it, do you, Brandon?
This is also my biggest point when it comes to this looking a bit suspicious, because it almost seemed like she was ready to fight instantly. It's, you know, for a 50-kilogram hijabi woman like her, this is really odd. It's almost bizarre, especially after you've just been sprayed with something unknown. You'll be trying to get rid of that, not get into this, put yourself into the situation even more, despite the fact that you have security and the fact that the person kind of just allowed himself to be held and pushed to the ground. That is what makes me quite suspicious.
You don't believe
it? I don't think that this was. I think this was staged. I don't know if it was true or not.
Can I ask
think
a question here? Can I ask a question?
Okay.
What if Alex Preddy had sprayed a liquid onto this ICE officer? Would you have Brandon? Would you have said that there was no threat at all?
It'd be aggravated assault.
And you would have supported executing him.
No,
and just like you would have supported.
No, that wouldn't have been justification. That wouldn't have been justification for the ICE agent to react. But merely holding a phone, is justification to react.
Who said that it's justified for somebody to spray something? We're talking about a specific incident where a man had a gun. They had a reason to believe that he was armed and dangerous.
He had a gun in his holster. He was holding a phone. He was holding a phone.
Can we talk about masculinity for a second, Piers? I'd like to talk about masculinity for a second.
Gun on him.
I would too. I would too.
Did he not have a gun on? Have you ever done law enforcement? Any one of you emasculated men on a thing?
Yeah, I also do think the other issue here is, like, it's hard for people to put themselves into these situations as well, especially law enforcement, high pressure situations. Like when you hear a gun go off, especially as you are trying to hold down someone who was armed, like, who knows? Like, obviously this needs to be investigated, and we need to come to what actually happened there, including the misfire of the SIG. But at the end of the day, I feel like it is a high-stress, high-risk situation where there have been, in fact, calls to kill these agents quite openly by the left. And we know the left are rather open to killing their political opponents now. They will do it. Like, it's not theory anymore. It's not, you know, crazy TikTokers going online and posting edgy TikToks about them doing this to Republicans or the right wing everywhere in the Western Hemisphere. That's not it at all. Like, they do in fact do these things now. They're extremely violent. Even in Australia, they're extremely violent. Like, I actually had a really funny thought the other day where I was like, you know, now that there is a left, the Islamic left, or the Red-Green Alliance as we call it, could you also classify the Bondi Islamic terror attack as a left-wing terror attack? I did actually have that thought. Probably not, but I reckon phrasing it that way would piss off a lot of these lefties. Like, you could rage bait them by saying so.
Have you ever done law enforcement?
You know,
have you
Brandon,
ever
I can
used
field
force
this
against
one for
somebody?
you. I'm happy to take this. Thank you for that.
Why are they emasculated?
Have you ever had to use
Can I
force
talk,
and make a
Piers?
split?
Thank you, Shay.
Brandon
Osman,
Tatum
for that.
used to play in the NFL football emoji for a bit.
Apparently, Piers, we're emasculated because we're not bootlickers for ICE agents who want to kill somebody.
Well, you can judge
Brandon.
somebody on use of force. Freddie.
Brandon, let him talk.
Well, actually, that's a good point. We actually don't know the man who shot Preddy because the federal government is hiding him, so we don't know who killed their own citizens yet.
Isn't he?
But we know that the chief of police in Minneapolis gave a press conference after the shooting of Preddy, where he talked about how the judge.
It is political Jerry Springer, but I don't know how he keeps getting really good guests on this show. Like, they all keep going to this.
judgment was irresponsible, and how his police officers, every single police officer in the entire city of Minneapolis, shot 0 bullets last year. They encountered real criminals. Excuse me, let me.
I think this is one of the worst ones, though. Like, they just wouldn't allow the other person to speak. They kept on interrupting each other, and usually it's like, a lot of the time he gets really good guests, like especially that time when he brought on that Iranian IRGC propagandist and Goldie confronted him. Like, situations like that's really good, because then we get to see it, like on a platform like this that we don't generally see. But here, like, no one's getting a word out, really. So I'm gonna try and skip little bits and
let me finish. They encountered real criminals, not soy boy protesters like Alex Preddy. They encountered actual criminals. They encountered murderers,
not
rapists.
in use of force scenarios.
Oh, gun, and I got so scared, and I've got to shoot my bullet. Boom, 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 10 times. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I got to shoot my bullet. Those are the men.
Hang on.
You never read
a gun to be a real man. I don't the rhetoric
about this is. Everyone knows at this point Biden and Mayorkas are bringing people in deliberately because they want them to be voters and they want them to help in the census. There's really no serious argument against that. It's very interesting that the Democrats' response to everything is always stop the deportations. They never say, hey, let's think of a good way to get rid of the illegal aliens. They'll never say that. So it really is a tell where they're coming from. But as far as what I think a good messaging should be going forward is focus on the criminals for the deportations, meaning for the arrest outside of the jail. Focus on the sanctuary cities because, you know, one of the issues with Minneapolis is the sanctuary cities where they would rather turn over a child molester back into the community than turn them over to ICE. And by the way, Tim Waltz wrote an op-ed lying about this the other day in the Wall Street Journal. So you have to wonder, is he even acting in good faith on this? But I think emphasize the criminals, emphasize the benefits from not having illegal aliens in the country, and also remember, deportations and border security are intertwined because the reason people were coming under Biden was because they knew the second they set foot on American soil, they were all, for all intents and purposes, a citizen of this country. So you cannot have those policies or people will continue to come in. These all work together, but deport the criminals. Say who you're deporting, why, incentivize self-deportation, and talk about the benefits of not having illegal immigrants. As you know, in your country, it's a...
All right, we'll stop it there. I think I've had enough of Pierce, but I just wanted to share that to show you just how much people have gone on those both extremes, I guess. And I think it will be very difficult for a lot of Americans to actually come to a reasonable debate or be in a bit of a center or centrist position. But at the end of the day, I wanted to stop right there because I believe what this guy is saying is correct. We've got to go back to the real issue at hand, and it's immigration, isn't it? Like, not all immigration is equal. Not everyone coming into these countries are coming in with, you know, good faith intentions. Some people are in fact criminals, and when we look at country like even Europe or Australia, we're bringing in people who don't even believe in the same values as us. I showed you what Shahid Butt thinks. He's talking about not taking Christians and Jews as friends. He's talking about, and he's running for political office at the moment. Like, these are the people that are currently coming into these countries and posing a lot of issues for them. They are using the freedoms provided in liberal democracies to pervert the liberal democracies. They're using these rights and freedoms to gain enough power to have enough of them. And then when that happens, they are not going to afford you the same freedoms or the same rights. So something needs to be done. Something has to be done. And I think in the Western developed world, at least, it is probably Donald Trump who's doing that. No one else is really doing it. I saw a post that talked about pantsuit deportations, where, you know, a lot of Danish, Scandinavian countries, they're offering these illegal immigrants money to leave. They don't really leave. Like, they're just trying to play real nice. It's like gentle parenting illegals, gentle parenting criminals to try and leave the country, and they're not doing it. They're really not going to do it. Like, they think these politicians in these countries are just idiots. And they're going to use that to keep, pushing their ideas, to get more of them over from their countries and try and pervert these democracies. That is the ultimate goal. And it's just unfortunate that we've come to this point. But hopefully, as we're seeing, as I put out a video about the resurgence of a new right-wing movement here in Australia, in One Nation, the political party, I believe a lot of these Western countries, like in the UK, Reform UK is now probably predicted to be elected into office. Nigel Farage might actually become Prime Minister. So I believe this is probably the pendulum swinging back the other way. It generally never stays in the center. It either goes, and for a while, since the 2010s, really, the pendulum has been stuck on the left for a very long time. The far left, almost. I genuinely couldn't believe One Nation is now polling above the Liberals in this country. It's almost bizarre. How is this possible? But I think that speaks more to how bad the classic conservative movement is. Like, they do not appear to have the answers. They do not appear to be able to speak the truth. They do not appear to be capable of confronting real issues. In fact, they appear to be rather selfish and responsible for a lot of issues that we face today, either by them being in power for a long time or by them being just terrible opposition. Genuinely. If tomorrow the Labor Party decides to adopt a hardline anti-immigration stance, they'll win the next couple of elections. That's how easy it is for them. But they won't do that because they want to import as many people into the country over the next couple of years, as they have done. Record numbers each year. 500,000 net immigrants since Albanese has been elected, or numbers around that figure. They've done so because they know in a couple of years, all these people will get voting rights and they will keep Labor in power. They just want an eternal, a 1,000-year-old Labor empire is what they're after. And I do think even in the US they did the exact same thing, or at least they attempted to do the same thing. The numbers under Biden, when it came to illegal immigration, was just unbelievable. Like 10 million people or over, and that's the amount we know of. How is that real? Like, you really would have to have no concept of borders or laws to allow that to happen. And he did. Because he was going to, in the future, well, not him, because he was out of his mind towards the end there, but his party were going to give them all voting rights and just ensure that it will be a Democrat-led country for a very long time. That's it. Now look, that was essentially what I had for today, but I thought maybe for whoever's left, I would do something that's been highly requested, and that is to play the full theme song for the channel. And before that, what do you guys think of this new background that I have, actually? Like, I made this early this morning, actually, because I figured I needed something a little bit more relevant to the channel. I might do a few more for the rest of the scenes, but I quite like it. It's generally really low key. Got a bit of pixel art there, and the animation's really subtle, so you don't really notice it too much. Like, you can see the billboard like on the top left there, and a little bit of reflections there. Yeah, it's much easier. All right, so I will quickly play that for you guys, and enjoy.
In the neon haze of a broken towers hum, but the wild runs on. A shadow moves through the circus below, half machine, half beast, with a violet glow. They thought the outback was lost to the flame, but a dingo returned with a coat in his veins. Save up on dingo, racing through the night, claws on chrome, eyes burning bright, guarding of futures the core can't control, running on data but driven by soul. The streets remember the wars of the past, empires of silicon built not to last. Through the wreckage he hunts, through the silence he roams, carrying whispers from a world long gone. A ghost of the desert, reborn in the wire, an outlaw of circuits, a flame in the fire. Finger, oh, racing through the night, claws on chrome, eyes burning bright, guarding of futures the corpse can't control, running on data but driven by soul. He howls through the smog where the satellites spin, fangs made of lightning but heart made of skin. No master, no leash, just a path carved alone, a myth of the future, a legend of chrome. Cyber dingo, racing through the night, breaking the system, rewriting the fight, guarding of futures the core can't control, running on data but driven by soul. When the neon fades and the servers follow, the cyber dingo is the last to know.
There you go. Hope you enjoyed that. I cut that quite a bit for the outro song and also at the start of these live streams, but hopefully all of you enjoyed that. Once again, thank you all for joining. I know it's a bit of a weird time for some of you guys, and yeah, this has been a very requested thing. Honestly, it's unbelievable. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. And once again, thank you all for your support, whether you watch the videos or join these live streams. And also, once again, thank you for everyone who's either a patron or a YouTube member. Oh, my camera's overheated. What the hell? Well, perfect timing then. All right. I'm ending this now. Thank you guys. I'll see you soon.